Everyone online says you need to scale with a course. And I say, sell the damn service. I'm Emylee Williams, award-winning consultant and Productize offer expert since 2014. And I'm here to help you work less, make more, and stop custom building your burnout. Each week, we talk strategy, structure, and the real stories behind sustainable service businesses. You know, from service providers who like doing service work, who want to stay in service work, but also just make more money. If you're ready for all that yapping, then let's dive in. So the doors to sold out services officially open today. So later today, I'm having my webinar. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, November 11th, then this is coming out probably first thing in the morning. And later today, I'm having my webinar. If you haven't saved your free seat, you should definitely do that. You still have time. Soldoutservices.com/webinar. It's happening at noon Central today. You should definitely be there. But I'm going to assume that you're either listening to this later or the next day even. And so if you are listening to this in, around a week from when I had the webinar, then doors to sold out services are open. And I want to talk a little bit, I want to spend some time today talking about my program and talking about who it's for, and where you might find yourself when you're ready for sold out services. Of course, if you have any questions specifically about the program, you can definitely send me a DM over on Instagram at Emylee Says. It's EMYLEESAYS, and slide into my DMs and ask a question. But I want to talk to you about, there's an element that I'm going to be going in a lot deeper inside the webinar later today. That I call ceiling season. And a lot of service providers who come to me are in ceiling season, and they don't necessarily know that that's what's happening. But within the first 60 to 90 seconds of talking to someone, I can tell that they're in this season. And it's when, as a service provider, you are hitting your capacity ceiling, meaning you can't work with any more clients because you do not have any more time, any more bandwidth to give another client the proper attention that they deserve in order to get the project complete, the work done, right? So you're hitting your ceiling of your capacity, which also means you have hit your revenue ceiling. And so because you cannot bring on any more clients, you cannot make any more money. Now, you might have tried to navigate this a little bit by raising your rates, by asking existing or past clients to buy something else from you, and you're increasing, your average client value and your lifetime value. Those things might be levers that you've already pulled. If they aren't, we definitely talk about that inside Sold Out Services. But if you've pulled those levers and you're still sitting there and you're like, yeah, that worked for like a quarter, and I'm at my ceiling again. And so you're at ceiling season. You're hitting two ceilings. They happen at the same time. As your revenue goes up in your service business, your capacity ceiling, the max of your capacity, it does not grow, right? Revenue goes up, but that it's going to hit that ceiling because that ceiling is finite, right? Unless we make changes. And those changes are productization. And that is the core component of sold out services. So what I do inside Sold Out Services is I analyze and I audit your current offers to identify the one that is most ideal, prime candidate, perfect fit for productization first. It's not to say that you can't productize more than one of your containers. However, inside of our time together in Sold Out Services, we focus on one because there are a lot of moving parts and pieces to productization. There's tech, there's systems, there's workflow, there's templates and automations and emails, scope refinement, proposal refinement. There are a lot of pieces that we are going to touch throughout our time together. And don't worry, we have a year of working together. So we've got time. But I like to button up all of those parts and pieces in one container first, and then continue to do postmortems throughout the year on how much time is it saving you? Are you able to work with another client now that we have it buttoned up? Where can the time and attention that you were spending there, where is it going now? And being very intentional about that, right? Before we then productize other things. Because what you might realize is that the other containers that you've got floating around were either rolled into the main core offer or eliminated altogether, just based on data, results, your ideal clients, all of that, which we talk about together inside SOS. So, as you're going to see in the webinar later today, there are 6 pillars of productization, and I dive in really deeply in what those are and examples of what that could look like inside the webinar. If you're registered, you're going to get the replay as well, so don't worry about that. The curriculum behind the scenes walks us through each of those pillars and make sure that we analyze and audit what the existing situation in your business within that pillar, what does it look like right now? What is every single thing about it? What's going on, right? What's happening in that pillar? Then of what is true and what's happening, what can be productized? Not everything can, but nearly like every pillar, but every pillar has cut. Every pillar has something that we can productize. Okay. And it's when those things add up and start to stack on each other that the time saved, the energy saved, the bandwidth saved, it compounds. Okay. And it snowballs, and it gets really exciting about maybe there are some things at the beginning of our SOS process that you're going to hold tightly onto and say, I definitely couldn't figure out a way to productize that. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to say, okay, I'll let you have that for now. And then as we start to see how things really, when we actually install the systems in your business, see how it really feels for you and for your client, then we can talk about kind of doing the next level, right? But so what we'll do is we'll audit everything first, and then we'll walk through the pillars of productization and outline our options for productization in each of those pillars for your specific offer, your audience, etc. We do that asynchronously. So while this is a done with you container, it is modeled off of the done for you container that I do in my consulting business, which is Creatives Catalyst. So if you're unfamiliar, Creatives Catalyst is my boutique consulting firm that I've ran since 2023 when I left my 7-figure agency that I co-founded. And I went out on my own again and I started installing systems in my clients' businesses. That, over the course of many months and a year or so, shifted and turned into a productized offer that is for a clear audience who need a clear result, and I install a system. And so the process of that, of how that works, is what I teach you and help you install inside Sold Out Services. I have a core philosophy and belief system that it is critical to be learning from people who are actively utilizing the thing that they are teaching you or helping you implement. The systems and the structure, the method, right? They're actively today, right now, using it, and therefore are able to pivot with you in real time and know what's working today for that system or that method or the framework or whatever it is that you want to call it, not something that worked 5 years ago or not something that they used year 1 of their business and now they're on year 7, right? There's a time and a place for those types of conversations. And to me, I think, especially in the service world, it is more important than ever, than in a lot of scenarios, as a service provider to be learning from other service providers. And I'm going to confidently say, in every strategy and thing that you want to implement in your business, I want you to be learning it from a service provider. That is going to make it harder for you to find the person to learn from, because not a lot of service providers turn around and teach. They don't, because they're busy being service providers. I am someone who cannot shut up about business and marketing and selling and strategies and efficiencies and systems, right? The first course I ever made was called Pricing for Profit, and it was about the system of sales for photographers. Another course I made that went viral and sold over 30,000 copies was Trello for Business. It was about how to use that project management system as a creative business owner specifically. So I have been about the systems and selling and packaging life since 2013, right? I don't have it in me to not have a teaching component in my business. That is my choice. Running two brands is something I'm intentionally doing, even though there are pros and cons to that, right? And the bulk of my revenue comes from consulting work, like by and large. The leads I work to get is in that arm of my business. The referrals I get is in that arm of my business. The way I market, the way I deliver, the way I onboard, the way I communicate is all done for you service lens, because that's what I do over at Creatives Catalyst. I design and install, actually do the work to install systems in businesses for them to track and follow up with leads. That's what I do. I work with TEDx speakers, authors, and high level consultants who are working with like Fortune 100 companies. And I create a lead management system and follow-up and re-engagement system for them and install it in their business, bring in their leads from their previous, I use systems loosely because they weren't really using anything, and bring it into the new system, organize it, train their team on how to use it and maintain it. And then I'm available for ongoing maintenance and support once the project is complete. That's what I do over there. That container has been productized, and I'm actively selling it today, right now, working with clients, doing it today, right now. And it's the structure of that container and how I deliver it and sell it, package it, all of it, that informs the strategies inside Sold Out Services. Okay? I wanted to get clear on that. I think that transparency on that is really important. And I also know that there is a unique lens that I bring to this conversation because I have been in this space for so long. And I was a strategist educator for about 8.5 years, in addition to doing one-on-one client work, website design, branding, copywriting, photography, right? Because of the education arm and because my previous company did have a lot of visibility and a lot of traffic, I ended up working with over 30, 40,000 service providers who purchased my products. And I worked with hundreds of them intimately behind the scenes in coaching programs, group containers, high level mastermind, thought leadership groups where cut. But I've also gotten the chance to work intimately one-on-one with hundreds of service providers over the years talking about their systems, talking about their team, talking about their offers and their pricing and their messaging and their positioning, talking about the systems in which they run and deliver their businesses and their offers. And so I've not only done it myself and am doing it myself, but I've gotten to take a peek at behind the scenes of photographers and wedding planners and copywriters and career strategists and tarot card readers and, bookkeepers, like the industries that I've gotten to work with, the niches that I've gotten to work with, incredible, truly. And all of that knowledge gets put into the version of sold out services that exists today. And what's really cool about it being done with you and async is there's an art of how I work with people that requires marination. Is that the word? Marinating. Marination. I'm going to Google that because it's a word, guys. Marination, the process, obviously, of soaking food. But I'm talking about it in the sense of soaking in the systems that we're installing and the ways in which things could be productized. It's analyzing what is present, what is presently what is current cut. It's analyzing what is the current situation and ideating the best case system to install in order to get you the result that you want. Right? That's where the custom strategy comes into play. The framework and the system is the same no matter what. It's which one are we installing where for your business specifically based on where you're at and where you want to be. So there's a core component at the beginning of the program where you filled an onboarding form and I ask you a couple of questions. It's pretty short, but two of them are what's your current monthly revenue and what's your goal monthly revenue? Because if you are someone who has no desire to increase your monthly revenue goal, then I know we are building and buying back time for you to be able to allocate that as a resource however you see fit. And that time could be an hour, 3 hours, 5 hours, more. If you are someone who says, I'm at X amount per month and I want to be here by this certain date, then that gives me a different guidepost on what to aim for in the work that we're doing. So it means I'm going to push you on probably productizing more than maybe what you're comfortable with. I'm going to push you in making decisions faster, implementing faster, analyzing and getting data so that we can make the small pivots and changes in order for you to reach that goal. That is where the unique experience comes into play. And so what's cool is that everything is guided, and what I've done that I am really proud of is, yes, it starts with the onboarding form, and then you go into, the what I'm calling start here, and it is we need to get on the same page about what is productization, what does it mean, what are common mistakes, so that you can at least be on the lookout for them if and when they pop up for you. So we get on the same page first. There's an Airtable base that we're going to be working in that I've designed for you that I need you to duplicate into your system because that's where we're going to be doing some auditing. There are formulas that are proprietary to me. I made them. You cannot just Google it and get the answer. All that experience that I talked about informed that formula. And so we're going to utilize that. But what's cool is that each module has a checkpoint where the very last lesson in that module is a required submission for me to see your work basically from that module. What did the audit tell you? What are your hypotheses from the data from the audit? And audit's just an example because it's the first one that we start with. What is your starting point and your goal point? What are we working with here? Where are we headed? And when you submit that, you unlock a really cool bonus at every single module. So module 1, and I'm not going to list all of them, but module 1 is what I call the magic rate calculator. It is one of my favorite tools I've ever made. It's so cool, and I can't wait for you to see it. There is, and I think I'm going to do a full episode on this at a later date, but it is a visual input. It's a dashboard where you can run your business either using a top-down approach for goal setting or a bottom-up approach for goal setting. And if you don't know what that is, that's totally fine. I explain it in the bonus, in the lesson, and I'm going to do another episode about it. But it's a really cool way to measure where you're at in your pricing. And if you were to raise your prices or change your goals, reallocate funds, how does that impact your revenue, your client capacity, your pricing requirements, right? All of it. So it lets you play hypothetical scenarios out in a visual way that does the math for you, which is really, really cool. So you get access to that when you submit your work for Mod 1. When you submit your work, I get that in my system and I review it, and you will hear back from me within 48 business hours. So typically, I love to do a Loom video or a Voxer note. I verbal process, and hello, I have a show, a podcast. And so you'll hear from me where I will either be asking you follow-up questions because we don't have enough clarity to make a decision and move forward, or I will look at your kind of draft 1 and say, ooh, here's where the revisions I would make. Here's what I would think about. Here's what I would do. Let's consider this. And then we get on the same page before we move forward. Because SOS is truly building blocks one onto the other. We've got to know what we are productizing first. We've got to know what's changing about that offer, the scope, the deliverables, the result, the assets, before we can then create the systems that actually productize the delivery and the maintenance and the communication and all of the things, right? And so we start it at step 0 and move all the way forward to getting it put in front of your ideal client, your level 10 client, which you'll learn about inside Sold Out Services. Which it was so funny because I was on a coaching call recently and, well, actually cut, which is funny because if you listen to Coley James's podcast where I was on her show last week, I believe, or a couple weeks ago, November 6th, whenever that was, in accordance to when you're listening to this, last week, I was on her show and I was talking about level 10 clients, and I kind of just like mentioned it. And I said, oh, like that's a phrase that we use in Sold Out Services. And she said, yeah, I think you're glossing over level 10 clients because the way that you talk about level 10 clients clicked. Like it clicked for her in her brain of thinking about what makes a level 10 client and how it's not an ideal client. That is not the conversation we're having. It is different. And so definitely go listen to that episode to hear more about that. But you will for sure learn about level 10 clients. What does that mean? Who are your level 10 clients? And why not all of your ideal clients are going to become level 10 clients, and why that matters for your projections, for your client communication, all of it. And so I want to partner with you to audit, decide the systems, the productization system, and help you to install that in your business. And that's what SOS is for. It's a 12-month container where we work together to implement and create a productized offer, a productized signature service, so that you can increase your revenue if that's a goal of yours. But regardless, where you can decrease your time and you can back off of that capacity ceiling that I talked about. It's going to come back again. That, I think, is the conversation of service work that we don't talk about enough, is that being in the reason why I call it ceiling season is because seasons roll around. There are 4 seasons in our year. It might take you 6 months, a year, 3 years to hit your next ceiling season, but you'll hit it. And different decisions will need to be made at that point. But like I was preaching on Threads and on Substack a couple weeks ago about don't worry about the 7-figure funnel if you haven't even made 6 figures yet. That conversation stems and leaks into a lot of the conversations I have with my clients. Don't worry about the problems you're going to face when you hit your next ceiling if you haven't dealt with the current one that you're hitting right now. You can only ever get to hit that next ceiling if you deal with the one that you're at right now. Otherwise, you're just going to drown here. Hitting the ceiling is not the problem. It's not doing anything about it. That's the problem. It's not analyzing what is actually the issue when I hit that ceiling. What's causing the issue when I hit that ceiling? What do I need to do about it in order to get past it? And then there's another ceiling waiting for you. That is part of the game of business. It's part of growth. It's a great thing to hit that ceiling. That's where I want to change your perspective. Hitting the ceiling means you're growing. That's phenomenal. It's good business owners who do something about the issues that happen when you hit the ceiling. Not shut down, not 180 pivot their entire business because that ceiling made them uncomfy. It's actually doing something about it. And so if you are a done-for-you service provider, a done-with-you service provider, and you're finding yourself in your ceiling season and you want to do something about it, and you don't want to change your entire business model, you don't want to sell one-to-many, you don't want to have to create an Instagram marketing plan, you don't want to have to create a low price offer that cannibalizes your signature service, then productization is the lever that I encourage you to look into. And I would love to partner with you on installing those systems in your business and really, really auditing and analyzing where you're at right now, coupling that with where you want to be, and deciding what do we need to do to bridge the gap, right? That's all it is bridging the gap. And I would love to get to do that with you. So if you're listening to this before noon Central, make sure you come to the webinar. There's more of where this conversation came from. soldoutservices.com/webinar. If it's after the webinar, then doors are open to Sold Out Services. You can head to soldoutservices.com/join and learn more. And please, if you just want to chat it out, slide into my DMs over on Instagram at Emylee Says. We'll chat soon, and I hope to see you inside. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Sell the Damn Service. I'm really honored that you spent however many minutes you just did with me. Now, if you could go do me a very quick favor and be sure to like, subscribe, leave a rating and a review for this podcast over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or, pick your favorite platform. I'm not going to be that choosy. It truly means the world to me. It's how little tiny shows that are like mine, that are self-funded and, being edited in between dinner time and school pickup, it helps us get seen. It's free for you to do and takes just a couple of minutes. And I would love you forever if I could send you an edible arrangement as a big thank you. I would. So instead, consider this giant thank you directed just at you for going to do that. And share this episode or this podcast with a friend who needs to hear it. I love ranting and raving about service-based business strategies. And, I think more people should listen to this show, honestly. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I really, really, really am grateful that you're here, and we will chat very soon.